G'day everyone, welcome back to another footy tipping video on the channel. We're back again with the tips for round 2 of the 2023 AFL season. If you're going to enjoy the video today, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, that'd be much appreciated. And let's get straight into it. Rightio, my tips from last week. 3 out of 9. Yes, it was absolutely shambolic to kick off the year on the footy tips. And to be honest, round 1 is always the most trickiest because you yet to really see anything from all the clubs, only really pre-season to tell, but always never judge pre-season too much. So, terrible way to kick off the year, but hopefully now, moving forward, we've gotten a bit of a sample taste from a bunch of teams. We're able to tip a bit better, but yeah, 3 out of 9, absolute shocker. Of course, everyone got the draw right, no matter who you did tip. Went with the Blues, and to be honest, I probably should have won it in the end with those 2 minutes remaining. Went the safe on the Cats, thought they'd get it done, but geez, the Pies, what an inspirational and impressive win it was by them. Went with the Eagles away, thought their experience would get it done. North looked fantastic. The kicking bags are fun. 𝘵𝐼𝐿𝐻𝐸's on fire too. They just were more hungrier. Went with the Lions away, and I went with them convincingly, and geez, how about that from the power? Flicked the switch in the second half, bullied and almost shell-shocked those Lions midfielders in the contest, and down forward too. Went with the Demons, went safe with them. They got it done very convincingly in the end. Backed my Bloods with a huge win. I did not expect the Suns to play that poorly. They won quite big. Went with Adelaide away. Thought they'd get it done. And to be honest, it was one of the worst losses in the past few years. They were looking good in the terms of the second quarter. Just fell apart in that second half. And a great win from the Giants. Seriously impressive stuff. And then went with... yeah, so this is the thing, right? I went with the upset with Hawthorn. Turns out it was the worst one. So many upsets to do. But I choose the worst one is the Bombers, which went bang. And yeah, St Kilda, again, another tip wrong. Went with the Dockers, I was like, surely Fremantle do not lose this game. But the Saints, they were awesome. Their defensive pressure was great. So 3 out of 9, hopefully we can do better next week. As I say that, we move on now to the round 2 tips of 2023. We kick it off Thursday night, Carlton versus the Geelong Cats at the MCG. The Blues last week were... look, I think they were sort of disappointing going forward, and that's sort of the same with the Tigers. Their contested game was very good. You know, Cripps in there, Kennedy, 𝐼𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐻𝐸t were playing great games. And defensively, they were really sound as well. McGovern had a great game, defensively that is. There was, of course, a lot of ball skill errors too. You know, 𝘬𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐿𝐻 and Lewis Young had great games, and so did Doherty too. So... for me, the Blues, they just really struggled on getting that final link, that final kick to hit a target and kick a goal. For me, 𝐼𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐻 was held really well by Grimes, and that link between 𝐼𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐻 and Mackay is so crucial for the Blues if they want to kick points. And for me, like Zach Fisher and, you know, also the likes of 𝐸𝐸𝐿𝐻, they were really quiet, so they need more output from those small, at ground level kind of players for the Blues this weekend. Heading into the Cats, who they played good enough footy, they played really... efficient football, but on the outside game they just got burnt by a more energetic Pies outfit. So I think this is going to be a lot more of a contested game. I think Carlton can generally really win this matchup against the Cats midfield. You know, Tanner Bruin's still a young fella, same with Max Holmes, and you know, Dangerfield was okay, I guess, so the Blues can really take advantage of that. And it's just, though, with the Cats, they do have that upside in terms of their forward line. You know, Hawkins and Cameron were sort of quiet. I thought Stengel and Close were very quiet too, so they just haven't upside in those sort of terms. And their defense, I still thought, put in a pretty good game. 𝘉𝐷𝐿𝐴 had a really good one. No Tom Stewart though. Also, Sam Cunning was a bit injured too, so they just have a few more upside with those matchups. But I just think the Cats will be too good in this Thursday night game. I just like them a bit better with them going forward. I am going to be tipping Geelong here. Good game of footy. I think it'll be close, but maybe that fourth term Geelong might soar away with the likes of Cameron kicking a bag, or maybe someone like a Stengel really bobbing up. So yeah, Geelong win by, let's say, 23 points. Then Friday night, we have the Brisbane Lions up against the Demons. Geez, the Ds are looking the goods here in this matchup. You can tell straight away. The Lions, oh so disappointing against Port Adelaide. They started okay, I guess. You know, it's always hard to play Port Adelaide in Adelaide Oval, but I just thought... you know, I backed their system, I backed their players to get that win over there. But as Chris Fagan said in his presser, that's just not their trademark. He's never seen them play like that. So I still think it was a bit of a one-off performance. But, you know, we can only say so much. They've got to come and really present and beat this Melbourne outfit, which are looking very strong at the Gabba too. So I like them pretty much instantly. I think from just what we're able to tell, you know, from our head, from our sort of gut feeling, we were able to tell that you think the Lions will bounce back this week. But The Demons, man, they're probably coming in a bit more stronger because 𝐼𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼 a bit of a iffy out. That does really hurt out a bit of their pressure game and also in the midfield. And a bit of X factor down forward, but Stephen May could come back in, Bailey Fritsch could come back in, Salim, Jack Viney could come back in too. So those are just huge additions to that Demon side. And they usually have good measure on the lines with a bunch of past games. So yeah, I don't know. I think they're, the likes of Neil and Dunkley were quite poor. McCluggage was awful too, really, from that second half onwards. So I think they'll get back to their best this game, the Lions. But I'm going to be going with the D's. I think, as I said before, they're usually quite good against the Lions with multiple occasions the past few times these two sides have played. So I'll go to the Demons at the Gabba. Yeah, I do like the Lions though. I think they could win this game, but Melbourne, I think they'll be too good, and they'll win by 17 points. Now for the Saturday games, geez, what a matchup this is. Collingwood versus Port Adelaide at the MCG, 1:45 p.m. So it's no prime time slot, but we do have a really intriguing game on our hands. This is a good matchup, I think, for both teams. A good test for both teams to see who is really the more exciting team in their forward 50. The Pies last week were so good with just that overlapping run. It just looks like they haven't gone a step out of their game plan at all from 2022. So the Pies at home, instantly, pretty good looking tip here. But Port Adelaide, I've got to give them a bit more credit. I instantly just writ them off pretty much sort of against the Lions. I thought they'd just get it done on the road. But I do like Port Adelaide here. I think their contested game can really get on top of Collingwood's, Butters and Rosie in there. Just the sort of bigger bodies, I guess you could say. Wines play some great games, and Horn-Francis is a bit of X factor. Speaking of it, Horn-Francis versus Daicos sort of game here, so could be a huge one. But I'm just loving the Pies style, especially at the MCG. Their ability to spread and overlap and play the corridor football so well. Port Adelaide, I think they can really win their contested game. And if they do get things going forward, the likes of Todd Marshall was really good. I think they can win a few matchups. But again, the Pies defence looked pretty sound back there too. But yeah, I'm expecting this to be close. I really do like Port in this tip, but just how the Pies have been playing, how they did play last week, I think they get it done. And I think this will be a close one. This will be a close game. Both even teams here, I reckon, with how they did play last week. But yeah, I'm expecting Port to really put on the points too. But yeah, the Pies at home, just like their style. I'll go Collingwood by 7 points. Next game up, we've got the Crows versus the Tigers, 4:35 p.m. at the Adelaide Oval. Geez, the Crows were disappointing last week against the Giants. It was the likes of Isaac Rankin and Shane McAdam and Josh Rochelle, sort of their more flashy players getting it done. But simply, they just didn't get enough output from their midfielders. They finished the game poorly. They couldn't kick straight either. And look, on the other side of the coin, the Tigers, it was pretty much a Tigers brand of football last week. They had the repeated entries. They had the pressure. They just couldn't execute. And at this game at the Adelaide Oval, I still do really rate the Crows heading into 2023. And I think I might tip the Crows here right off the bat. I just like them at home. They beat the Tigers at home last year, so I can't see why they can't do it again. I think, though, Richmond, if they can really capitalise on their inside 50s and be a bit better with their ball use, they look like the goods here and they could really win convincingly. So it is a pretty intriguing matchup. Really could go either way, this result. But I'm just going to be sticking with the Crows at home. Now, it is obviously not the favourites, but I just like them at home. I think they can get their brand a bit better. A high pressure game similar to Richmond. I think they could really contain those defenders. Fogarty needs to do a big job on the likes of Grimes, etc. Crows get it done at home. I just like the look of their upside with a few of their flashy players. Be a close game though. Crows in the end will win it by 11 points. Now for the Western Bulldogs versus St Kilda at Marvel Stadium. The Saints were brilliant last week. Just the outs they did have, the Saints, the relentless pressure they put on in the midfield. They pretty much broke even with St Kilda in the contested game. It was very, very good. An impressive win. And whilst for the Bulldogs, you could just tell the full tools, are they going to work? 𝐼𝙗𝐿𝐼 𝐷𝐿𝐼 and also Norton. It's just a lot of question marks coming out of that game. They started very well that game, but again, it was their defensive transition that was very poor. Liam Jones coming off, Josh Bruce back there. Do they throw someone like a Sam Darcy, who was really good when he started off his career in defence with a few intercept possessions? Do they throw him back there? They just needed a bit more pressure at ground level. No Arthur Jones, no Cody Waitman. They need to get something going there. So maybe they balance it up with the tools this week. Throw a few back. But you'd think in defence they wouldn't need to have too many tools to cover St Kilda. It was a lot just about their pressure and at ground level. Mitch Owens having a great game, and Ryan Burns and also Jack Bytel having great games in the contested game with their more limited entries, just making the most of it. And you know what? I actually like the Saints in this tip. I did say last week I could see them having that sort of high spirits win, really getting it done, and to be fair, they did. And the Bulldogs, I still have question marks about them. On paper, they do look like a free-flowing, high-scoring team, but I still don't know about just the game plan and where the tools are going to fit, and also the defending transition was pretty poor too. So I think it's going to be a contested heavy game. The Bulldogs will probably get on top of that, but again, the Saints, I think they're just going to play some really high-spirit footy, and you know what? Let's go the Saints. Upset game here. I think it could be close, but I'm just going to be going with the Saints here against the Bulldogs. In a good game. St Kilda by, we'll go 8 points. And for the final Saturday game, we do have Fremantle taking on North Melbourne at 𝐼𝐴 Stadium. The Dockers were pretty disappointing last week. They just fell back into their shell and fell back into their groove of just pretty boring footy, not really taking on the corridor. I thought their midfield were pretty lackluster too. You know, Sarong had a pretty good, was heavily targeted, I guess you could say. Brayshaw didn't really show much impact. But the defenders were just racking up the marks. They just couldn't take the game on. And their forward line, again, I've said it so many times, it's just a mess. Is Nat Fyfe going to work? 𝐓𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼 had a few nice moments. But, you know, Tracy down there and Taberner, they just could not get things going in terms of their forward structure. But against North Melbourne, look, they had a great win against the Eagles. Don't discredit that at all. But again, how much do we take it from that? It was the Eagles. They just barely had enough fight in that midfield. They were pretty poor defensively, and they almost came back to beat them. So there's those questions with North. But they're still young. They're still a low-ranked team from last year, and there was a lot of exciting performances. You know, 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻 bossed it. 𝘬𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿 was awesome across halfback. Could be maybe a genuine chance for the rising star this year. 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻 was kicking bags for fun. But just considering this game's at 𝐼𝐴, I think I have to go with Fremantle here. You look, I think they'll, you know, probably want to get games on their own terms like they always usually like to do, and I think they can do that against this North Melbourne side, but North might bring up the heat, and, you know, maybe away they could really put on the points here, but yeah, Freo at home, it's the safe tip. I think they'll win convincingly, but not a smacking. I think North will be a lot more of a respectable team here, but Freo will get it done by, in the end, a sort of convincing margin. The Dockers by 35 points. And now for the Sunday games. First one we got up, the Sydney Swans versus the Hawks at the SCG, 1:10 p.m. Swans were awesome last week. Not really much was said about them. It was just probably more about the loser of Gold Coast, who were just pretty poor with their ball skills. But it was the Swans brand from last year on repeat. Pressure was just simply next level. The tackles, I had about 30 more tackles than the Suns. Whilst in the process, they were able to show their class and good use of ball skills and just their creativity from Chad Warner and 𝐿𝐻𝐿 Gordon. And, you know, Dylan Stephens was great too. And their forward line was humming well. Buddy out though for a week with that hit on Sam Collins. Does hurt them a bit, but considering this is against the Hawks, look, I think the Hawks, they play good footy against the Swans. They seriously do. But just on paper, look, the young midfield, I think they might have a few surges here where they could maybe get on top a bit, you know, kick a few nice goals. But, you know, no Mitch Lewis, 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻 and Green, are they going to kick goals? Who are going to kick their goals? You know, Wingard might bob up with one. You know, CJ kicked a nice one too. It's just the Hawks, very young midfield. They're pretty poor in the end defensively. I don't see how they can win this game. They could maybe be close, but just the Swans are humming at the moment. I don't think they have the matchups for the Sydney Swans here. The midfield should be on top. And their forward line too. The Swans get it done convincingly and win big. Not too big. I reckon Sydney in the end will take it home by 52 points. Now for the second Sunday game, Essendon taking on the Gold Coast Suns at Marvel Stadium. The Dons were really good. Merritt broke off a tag. Parrish played some good football too. And a few under-the-radar players too. Setterfield had a really nice game. Allen Davies Jr., exciting debut. Tipper, great to see him back. Wiedemann was nice with a few goals too. And Ridley, the new defensive style with probably a lot more marks in play. Ridley looks very good, and he could be a prime interceptor this year, not playing as a key. So yeah, Essendon at home, look, they should be good here against the Suns. I still don't know about Gold Coast. I really rate them this year, and to be honest, it was hot and humid, muggy conditions last week against the Swans. They couldn't get their ball skills going, and maybe because it was at the expense of the Swans' pressure, they couldn't get anything going right. But yeah, the defense of the Suns is pretty thin at the moment. I don't mind them here. I want to see how they go under dry conditions under a roof. But yeah, the Dons are high spirits at the moment. They should be getting a good win here at Marvel Stadium at home. I think they'll win another convincing margin here. We'll go Essendon by 29 points. And for the final game of the round, the West Coast Eagles taking on the Giants at Optus Stadium, 6:20 p.m. And yeah, the Eagles were disappointing last week. I know they came back and they almost took it home and won probably a classic victory for the Eagles, but that second quarter was abysmal. They just do not have any ball winners. Ginbey going in there, yes. how good, but he's 19. He's your leading tackle getter. They need like a 𝐼𝐵𝐿𝐼 back in there. They need 𝐼𝐻𝐿 back in there too. 𝘕𝐿𝐼 was okay as well, but yeah, the Giants, I just can't really see the Eagles have many matchups for the Giants in the midfield. But on the flip side, it's the Eagles. They still have a bit of experience. You just don't know, and especially at home, they just have that, you know, a bit more spirit and a bit more ability to get it done in front of the home crowd. As well, their forward line was actually pretty decent. Like, Allen could have had a few more chances. Darling was okay, but the likes of Liam Ryan was really good down in that forward line too. But yeah, Giants, I think they have the better matchups. I do probably prefer to tip the Giants here. Kelly's a bit of an out though, so 𝐸𝐿𝐼 has to really get going. Someone like a Callum Ward has to really get going too. But on the other side of the coin with the Giants, I know their win was impressive, but again, they were poor throughout periods of that game. They really could have been down by 10 goals at halftime if the Crows did kick straight. But yeah, from those two teams that I've just stated, I'll go the Eagles. I think they'll get it done in front of the home crowd. As much as I do think the Giants midfield will probably batter the Eagles one, I think West Coast will get it done probably with their forward line, and their defense really needs to stand up too. I thought Barras was okay, could be a bit better, but yeah, Eagles get it done at home and get their first win in a good game. I think this will be close. Eagles by 5 points. So everyone, there are my tips for round 2 of the 2023 AFL season. Thank you very much for tuning in. Of course, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you wanted to enjoy today's video. And until next time, fellas, I will talk to you later. See you later.